Hey, I'm Grant, and welcome to the Stay of the Channel for June 18th. So I guess the main update is I went to that big ReactJS training for my work, and I was actually really impressed with how much I learned. Because a big part of that was just bringing me up to speed on JavaScript. Like, I don't actually have any formal training in like website development or coding in JavaScript, which is used a lot for that. So now I guess I do. Like, I went through a whole thing where I basically read through this big book on kind of the basics of JavaScript, and then the class filled in all the other holes, and then also taught ReactJS, which is a library for UIs. I don't know if it's directly relevant, but the JavaScript stuff was cool. And this is more of a personal note, but I went back and I looked at some of the pages I support for work, and they used to just look like complete gibberish. Like, okay, I get that this is a thing, and yeah, I can change the values, but I can't really tell you why it works or do anything new. And now I totally can. I just made a simple web page that all it does is it has a drop down, and you can click the drop down, it goes, sends a message to the server, gets back a response, and says these are the things available for the drop down, put them on. And it's all asynchronous. And it was weird because I made that entirely on my own. I didn't do any of the built-in classes we have that are all common. It was entirely just raw HTML, JavaScript, HTTP, and it worked. It's really kind of exciting. This stuff that just seemed like this big black box and was super cryptic. Now it makes sense. And that's a big deal, because like doing stuff with like Ruby or learning JavaScript, when you learn these languages, you're constantly hitting problems because that's the point. It's like, okay, here's a chapter, you read it, now try and solve that. You're constantly hitting problems that you don't know how to do, because that's how you get better. And this was like the first time I was able to sit down like, hey, I actually learned something. I actually know what this means, and I can do something concrete with it, not just have like a prototype that only works under certain situations. So this week I'm trying to bring back and work on the Ruby stuff again. That's going to be neat because at this point I don't remember how to run it. I just know vaguely what I did. So I'm going to start there and hopefully get things going. I'd like to make the site pretty quickly. Like, I'd like to be able to develop the site as I go. Like, it's a very common idea with like Scrum, when you do like agile stuff, that you always have like a single product and you just iterate on that. I'd really like to do that so that, yeah, I can't do every feature I want for my website right away, but I can make one. So maybe it might even take the point where, hey, the new site is just one single static page on the old site. Like, if you want to see the new site, go here. This is the new home page. And it's just static HTML and CSS. Maybe I'll just do that. And then as I go, it's like, okay, look, now it can update. Look, okay, now it can log you in. Well, now if you forget your password, it can reset it for you, stuff like that. And just slowly iterate as I understand more and more. And I think that would be good, because that will give me perspective where, look, I'm actually adding features. I'm not just spinning on learning the language for a year. You can actually see concrete, like, hey, look, I achieved something. And then slowly start deleting pages from the old site, or rather the old site itself, and building up this new one. Especially because I think that's going to help me understand how websites work. Like, overall, I think I know, but when I actually got into the concrete of it, like the stuff it generates, it's like, what is this robots.txt file it keeps remaking and adding? Like, what is that? Like, I think I understand what that is, but when you just see that and all these other things, or the expectations your browser has on how it reads stuff, there's a lot there that I actually very specifically don't know, even though I kind of get the idea of how it works overall. So it's super exciting. Otherwise, I want to talk about, I streamed OSRS on Saturday instead of doing On the Rune. I went and I killed a boss, Zolra, who's like one of the harder bosses in the game and has a lot of mechanics where you just have to memorize certain rotations. I didn't do that. I just kind of winged it. And I got far enough to get the one kill I needed, but I was actually surprised at how well that went. Like, I didn't really expect anyone to show up. I just was kind of doing it, because that's how it usually works for stuff like with Destiny. Or like D&D would be a good example. Like, I don't expect anyone to show up, but if they do, I'll talk to them. But the main point is I just want to record our D&D game. So I was surprised when I streamed, I want to say, from like 8:30 my time to about 1. And I had people in there constantly, and it was really fun to chat. And I think we both like learned a lot. Like, they were just constantly giving me like really good tips. Or like, why don't you do this? Why don't you do this? Or mainly I just love, like, I love having different perspectives, because with that game it's a lot of just, yeah, I can do it, is it worth it? And having another person's experience really helps with that, and I really loved doing that. And that surprised me because I don't consider OSRS a game I would stream normally. Like, people find Destiny 2 boring to watch on a stream, and that's got a whole bunch of stuff, much less me just grinding XP in OSRS. But I was surprised that, yeah, it really doesn't matter, because the point is to chat. And I think I'm actually able to do that. Like, if I need to, I can sit down and I can talk basically to myself / to a camera for 4 hours. I can do that. And that's basically what it became. It's like, hey, I know I'm doing this, but really it's more me answering questions, saying what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, and just kind of chatting with people in the chat. Like, oh yeah, like, oh, like, later I'm gonna go get a pizza, we have these stuff on it, it's like, oh, and this, that's my ideal pizza, and people are like, oh no, why would you do that, they do this. It was just honestly fun, and I could see myself doing something like that. Like, way back when that On the Rune little RuneScape series started, I posted it to Reddit, and someone had like an interesting idea that said to not edit it, but instead do that live on Twitch, like every Saturday at the same time or something, and then just take that and post it to YouTube for this. So like you could have chat, but then you still got the video, because I don't think people need heavy editing on those. It's weird, I talked about this last week, about the guy who said it was way overdone. And it's interesting because it's like, you really don't need any editing, but at the same time, it's not someone showing up and you're like, this is terrible and you need more editing. It's like they just don't click the video. So I don't really know that, but maybe that's the direction I could take that. I definitely like the idea of being able to just like show up and do a show. It is kind of fun with OSRS, like playing it in different ways. Like, there's definitely things I do while I do other things, like edit. Like, that's when I do my grind. It'd be kind of cool to have like a show where it's like, hey, it's 2 hours, I'm gonna go attempt something. Like, that'd be kind of cool. I don't plan on it really going anywhere because I don't consider myself a streamer, but it would be neat. Like, I wouldn't mind making it a thing, because I think there's definitely room for more quality content creators in OSRS. And as I develop some of these other skills, I'd like to maybe try and fill that role. Particularly one of the things I talked about is that boss has just a lot of rotations, and people will make infographics on how those work. And all the infographics that come out of that game aren't very good. And you can tell when there's a really good one because it's amazing. And I look at stuff like in Destiny, we'll have for like the raids. That's nearly professionally done, easy to understand, and it's something where it's almost like legendary. It's like, oh yeah, everyone uses that one map that this guy made, and he's like known for it. So I could easily see maybe me filling that niche there, where I could make like, here's this large PDF or a web page, is what I think would be kind of neat, that fully explains everything about this fight. And it is the go-to source. And then that's how I can start hopefully growing an audience, maybe do something more with it once that's a thing. So that's kind of what I'm hoping for. High hopes. High hopes. But as always, you can contact me over on Twitter. It's at taking4grandD, or my email, it's grant@taking4grandD.com. And I'll be back again next week.